So we're here with Alex, Dewez, and
Hunter Savoy Jaffe.
exactly, and discussing about collaborating.
Collaborating in that we haven't necessarily intentionally collaborated.
But just like hanging out, you know, photos just kind of happened the other day when we were at Rebecca's. And actually just talking, it's just been really interesting. We've been driving around together a lot.
Yeah.
And actually I had like some ideas for charcoal that kind of like stemmed a little bit from our conversation the other day. So I think it's interesting for me to just be in a new environment with people that I'm not used to, because you know, I live in a small town. I know everyone knows me, so it's nice to have like meet new people, because sometimes even though you get comfortable in your small town, you kind of like your world becomes kind of small.
Yeah, it is interesting because it also, we don't have a set identity, because we don't have a social a social setting behind us. So we come here and we're stripped of everything that we're necessarily assigned to, which is something that I'm interested in my personal work, which is I deal a lot with humans and how they interact with object and how they interact with a social setting in a space and how that gets connected to earth and language and their own personal anatomy. So that's a lot of times why I self-isolate to make work and feel like I can process what I study when I'm in a more socialized space. So to come here without any of that baggage and to just have a conversation with you and to see where you're coming from and try and allude to some sort of story that I'm making up in my head and understand my relationship to you and our relationship in conjunction to the space that we're sitting in, like that's probably where the true collaboration has come in, because it's just been fluid and not assumed, and it's not like asked necessarily. So that's what's been interesting for me in having the both of us here.
Totally. Now when you work, do you tend to observe first and then kind of isolate yourself and absorb that?
Yeah, I feel like I could be deeply spongy. I'm a watery person, so I tend to really let things wash and wash and wash consistently over me and try to jot things down and then kind of extract in order to process what's happened. Some work comes out of that, and I'll walk back into a space and kind of know where I need to go with it. And when it comes to making artwork that produces usually a photograph or a print, or sometimes objects themselves. So that's where it's taken me, definitely. And then,
See, I spend a lot of time inside my head and probably not enough time observing. So being here is really good for me in that sense. And also, like I was telling you, just for those few months of working in a bar where I can't help but observe people and interactions, that's also kind of been very interesting. So even though this experience here is very different, I kind of feel like it's an extension of a process that I've started. So... And it's just so different here, even though I live in a very rural environment. I live in, like, at the foot of mountains, but it's a completely different world. So that, to me, is also really interesting. You know? I mean, there's a lot of really good people here, and there's a lot of really good people where I'm from, but still there's also huge differences. So it's nice to be exposed to more again. And I kind of has woken up my wanderlust to go and observe and explore more places.
Definitely.
And then go home and hide.
So and you're both photographers, right?
Yeah, we're both photographers, and I'm a photographer by trade, but more dynamic in that I have more interdisciplinary practice as well. Because from photographs come such things as prints, or I've been doing a lot of leather working, and so comes with leather work and more object worship and how that gets crossed into a 2D surface and into a 3D very physical object. So, and then deeply a writer, but that's not something I perform or anything like that. And I feel like a lot of the time that I'm really appreciative at Azule for is that I get to sit and go through the archives in the library, which is equally as cherished and necessary as just being in this space is like understanding the literature that's housed in it. So I kind of tend to, during the day, especially now because my truck has been in the shop the entire time we've been here, so I've been less explorative and more in-house. And usually during the day I tend to just stay in the loft because it's very warm and read. I'm reading Joyce Carol Oates's Where Are We Going, Where Have We Been? Or Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? And all those young American stories, and it's very interesting to swap perspectives and stories and that sort of in a space of literature and where that can be applied and applicable, and it reminds me of the people that I'm close to and I know, and it's just resurfacing a lot. And that's in the crux of it, that's exactly what I deal with is sociology, basically, and interaction and earth interaction, object interaction. So yeah.
Your process is a little different on that, but also similar, right?
Well, I really don't consider myself a real photographer. Like, I'm a photographer by accident because it's another medium for me to get the image that's in my head out in reality. Or not just an image I've created, or an image I've witnessed or a memory to kind of make that a solid object. But, I'm kind of new in this medium and I have a lot of technical things to learn, and that's kind of a constant balancing because I don't want to become so technically proficient that it becomes this like entity itself, but I need the tools to be able to really get what I'm thinking out there. So right now I'm kind of learning as I go along and kind of refining my skill set a little bit, but I don't want to jump too deeply into it because then I like to go back to the charcoal, and the charcoal for me is almost like two-dimensional sculpture because of all the blending and everything, and it's a much more organic, like physical experience for me. Even though when I do the self-portraits, that becomes very physical because of all the planning and movement and discomfort and everything involved, which is important to me. Like I need it to be that. But that's why I kind of like navigating between the two. Like I do need it to be a tactile experience, even if in one actually in both mediums the end result is a two-dimensional image, but the process I need it to be tactile and physical.
That's I need that too, is the physical tactile aspect of creating work. But I do get that in photography because I'm trained in the darkroom and trained in wet labs, and so that's kind of where I go to, is like understanding the chemistry and the process and the physical film of photography and it's at its core and at its essence, which I feel is, for me, where it all lays and it all gets it all gets decided, and there's so much manipulation that can happen and so much accident that can happen and so much magic that can happen, and it's just so like eerie and thrilling and bright and light simultaneously. I mean, at its core, it's all just like light manipulation, all of it. So, and what you do with that and what you do with it, it could become sculptural and tactile as well, and then just physically like mixing chemistry and understanding the process of mixing chemistry. And I'm a darkroom printer that doesn't use tongs. Some people are very considerate about using tongs, and I kind of don't. It borders on like a health thing, but I very much use my own fingers to move prints.
I was wondering what your hands look like.
I've been told that if you take up enough of that chemistry, if you accidentally ingest it, it could be like somewhat disaster. But I haven't really crossed that line yet. No. But it's frowned upon. But it's something I do because I like feeling the actual feeling of each chemical as it goes through the different baths, and how clean water can feel after that. Nice. So, yeah.
But you don't really use yourself as a subject the way Alex does, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not a directly self-portrait related person. It's interesting because I have a lot of trying to understand what the nature of a self-portrait is and what it could be.
For me, a lot of the time it's just because I don't have any willing slaves who will do exactly as I say. So I'm kind of just another tool. because it's not really about me. And it's kind of funny because a friend of mine recently told me that most of my nudes, my self-portrait nudes, my head is cut off, or like you can't see my face. I mean, you can see it's me, especially because I have tattoos and you can recognize me, but like it's, you know, the face part is obscured.
It's anonymized.
Yeah, because it's I'm just kind of an instrument. It's not about me or who I am. I'm not trying to like lay out my soul. I think like there's been a couple of like there's one charcoal that I did that was a self-portrait, and that was really about me, and it was an expression of what I was going through at the time. But the photographs aren't that. It's
So
just,
would you consider them portraits at all of yourself? Those photographs, or would you just completely swipe your identity?
no, I don't think I would have. I mean, it's not that I'm negating the fact that it's me, but I don't think I'd call them really self-portrait. I mean, most of them have titles, which are always pretty vague. They mean something to me, but you know, I don't really explain the intention to people. I let them kind of decide for themselves. But yeah,
It's not self-portraits the way Frida Kahlo.
right.
Clearly,
Right.
that was her thing. Like,
Yeah.
this is me, happy, sad, weird stuff happening. Yeah, yeah. It's just,
Body elements, constriction, yeah, definitely.
that's cool.
Hey.
Oh, pretty poor.
Yeah, and that's another difference between you and I, and we've talked about this in the car, is that the way that I'm very specific about the intentionality of my work and where it comes from and the concept behind it and where it's seen
Right,
and
and how
gets
it's
seen
interpreted.
and how it gets seen. Not necessarily how it's interpreted, but how it's put into the world and what is around it and what is the formation of the information that can be relayed in that specific moment in time. And that's a major difference.
Yeah.
Just a lateral difference.
Well, I still want to do that. I have this idea, which is not an original idea. It's been done before. We discussed it. But I want to make prints of my work and drive cross country and leave them in random places. But, like, you know, tape them to walls, not
Right.
just leave them, like, lying around. And, you know, see if people take them. And if they... I mean, I don't know. I mean, I might just leave my name on them, but see if people are interested in finding out, you know, who made them.
Which was the first thing that I jumped at when you. It
Yeah.
was like the first night we were here because you said that idea, and I said, "Oh, I do that, just as a practice."
Yeah.
Because driving has become part of my life, and long distance driving and work is always part of my life, and so it made sense to marry the two somehow. So that was interesting.
No, and I mean, for me, it'd be, like, interesting in different ways, like, reaching different people that I might not usually reach. And then it also is a kind of very self-involved thing for me in that it's leaving a trace, you know, in random places. So that maybe, you know, who knows, that photo will survive decades long after I'm gone and, you know, no one knows who the fuck I am. Not that they will know who I am anyway, but, you know, it's just the idea of, like, leaving, like, a piece of ash behind.
It's interesting to me what becomes a souvenir and what becomes merchandise, just based on who decides to put what where.
Yeah.
You know.
And I like the idea of, like, becoming someone's memory. You know, it's like, oh, remember that time I went to this gas station restroom in Nebraska and I found this photo and, oh, why did I put that? Oh, I think I still have it. Like that, I'd like to be like an anecdote. Perfect. I don't need to be someone's, like, big story. But it'd be nice to be someone's, like, anecdote.
Sure.
So.
That's pretty cool. There's actually a Facebook group called Art Abandonment, and that's I don't know if y'all have seen it, but
No.
you just, and I belonged for a while. I did it a couple of times, and I just got busy. But you go to this you know, this group, and you sign up, and you know, you take a photo of something you're gonna leave somewhere, and then you put a little card, and it's like, this is part of the Facebook Art Abandonment project, you know. Blah blah blah. Basically, that's it. So I don't know. It's just interesting that that people are doing that or whatnot. But oh god, who is that? Okay.
But it's like, you know, people who travel around and leave books.
Oh right, and they have like a
know.
little stamp there, and same thing.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we're all trying to make some kind of an impact. You know, some of us to a bigger degree than others. But I kind of like, I mean, it's intentional, but at the same time, there's a randomness to the result, which I kind of like.
And you don't have a control group.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Which I think would be really good for a control freak like me.
Definitely.
So this is awesome, guys. I really love. I'm not even gonna do individual videos with you because this has been so great. But I don't know if any last words or whatnot.
God, what to say?
I want to come back.
There you go.
I want to recognize Camille in my process of learning that that person is very much a parallel in my life. There's a lot of things that I see in her that I very much take gratitude in and identify with simultaneously. We live with some of the same things, and we learned about this. This is my second time back at Azule, so we learned about that the last time that we spent time together last year. It was about our parallels, and so to have a person to come to sit down with and just hear about and hear lessons from has been another informative moment of the process for me. And where the line gets blurred between an art practice and just living to live and listen is, especially with that person, especially with her as an elder, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to do a portrait of Camille, but I feel like it has to be next time. You know, I feel like this is my introduction to Azule, and I can't rush like getting to know this place. Like I need to like come back.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.